In this video, you are going to learn all about the Phrygian mode. The Phrygian mode is one of the darker sounding modes. It's not the darkest, but it is one of the darker sounding modes. It can be found a lot in metal and flamenco styles of music, but is also evident in a lot of other styles of music too, including rock and jazz. It's a very cool sound, and that's what we're going to get into today. Hi, this is Simon Candy from Acoustic Guitar Lessons Online.net, and today we are going to put the spotlight on the Phrygian mode. We're going to first learn what the Phrygian mode is, where it comes from, how it sounds, and then better yet, I'm going to show you 3 very cool ways that you can access the Phrygian mode on the fretboard of your guitar to create some really cool sounding music. One such approach for accessing the Phrygian mode on your guitar is super easy to do. All you need to know is one pentatonic scale pattern. I'm sure you've got that under your belt. If you do, I'll show you a very way that you can immediately access the cool sound that is the Phrygian mode. If you're new to modes, then click the link in the top right corner of this video to get an overview of modes. Now, having said that, you don't have to do that right now. You don't need to watch that video first to understand what we're going to cover in today's video. Perhaps bookmark it and watch it after this one. Okay, so with that said, let's get into it. Okay, so the Phrygian mode, it is the 3rd mode of the major scale. Okay, that is the Phrygian mode. And today we're going to look at E Phrygian as our example. So E Phrygian is the 3rd mode of C major. So what does that mean? It means that C major and E Phrygian share the same notes, but the notes function differently within each of those keys. So E Phrygian is not C major is not E Phrygian. This is a mistake that's made often, and I'll do my best to explain this so that you can understand the difference. When we look at E Phrygian, we see that those notes are E, F, G, A, B, C, and D. Now, another way to think of E Phrygian, one way being the 3rd mode of C major, another way is to think of it as a minor scale with a flat 2 or a flat 2nd. So Phrygian is a minor mode. Okay, that's why it's a bit of a darker sounding mode. If we relate it back to the parallel natural minor, which is E minor has E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. E Phrygian has E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So what is the difference between the 2 scales? E Phrygian has a flat 2nd, okay, flat 2. So we can think of it as a natural minor scale with a flat 2, or we can think of it as the 3rd mode of C major, so it's got the same notes as C major. Either way, you arrive at E Phrygian. That's the in a nutshell, that's the theory. However, it doesn't really mean anything until we hear E Phrygian. Now, a really easy way that we can access modes immediately on the fretboard, and I recommend doing first, is on a single string. It's very simple to play, so you're not distracted by technique or technical challenges or anything like that. And it's a good way to see the relationship of the notes when you lay them out on a single string. So if I take an E note at the 5th fret on the 2nd string and work my way up the Phrygian mode, I'd have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And we can come back down. Phrygian has that sort of flamenco, Spanish, Middle Eastern type sound that is a very, very cool sound. You could possibly have heard it there, even though we've got no reference. I could simply just play a low E string, because it's the root of the key, right? E Phrygian, E being the root note, and then play the scale. Okay, you hear that sound, right? That cool Middle Eastern sort of sound there that is characteristic of the Phrygian sound. So there is, now see how when you lay it out on a single string, you can see immediately that minor 2nd. That's so distinctive. That is a very characteristic note right there, is that minus, or the F, which is part of the interval of the minor 2nd straight up in the scale. Gives it that sort of sound. Okay, and then we work our way up and we can see how it looks on a single string. We can see the relationship between the notes, the interval, the distance, if you like, between the notes. Okay, you might say, hey, it's got the same notes as C major, so how is that not C major? Well, really, at the moment, it could kind of be either one, because I don't really have a context, although I did just strike my low E and that did give it a context, so that's certainly sounding E Phrygian, not C major, okay? If I was to play it over a C major chord, even if I did the same thing, it would be C major, because it's all about the chord progression, right? That's really, really important. And I have a video on the channel that goes deep into, or an overview actually, not really deep, but deep enough into modal progressions. And I'll link to that in the top right corner too. Check that out, because the understanding with modes begins at the level of harmony, the chords. And we'll probably refer to them in this video with E Phrygian, but to get a more in-depth look at chords and really, in my opinion, laying the all-important foundation to understand what we're talking about today to a greater level, check that video out. Let's just hear Phrygian a little bit more. I'm just going to put a track on here and we'll just have a static chord here. It's just an E minor chord. Okay, and if I play that scale, now we've got a little bit more context. Just played a major second there, so hopefully you didn't hear that. Okay, but there's the scale. Now how do we know it's not C major? Well, listen to the C note. It's a point of tension there, and it wants to resolve. Now if we're in C, that C wouldn't sound like that, okay? So, and of course the E note right there is home. We can hear that resolve. Resolve to the E, not the C. So you can just kind of hear, you know, this will do wonders. I mean, you can get your head stuck in a book and read all these different perspectives on the theory of modes, but if it's not backed up with the practical use of modes and your ear being revealed to the sound, you're going to confuse yourself, okay? So sit there and play it over a single chord and a single string and just listen and absorb the sound that is E Phrygian. That will do more for your understanding of the mode than reading volumes of books on the subject. Okay, so the first way we will access the Phrygian mode is to access it in kind of like the back entrance, if you like, to Phrygian, and that is realizing, as we have already said, it's a mode of C major. It's the third mode of C major. It has the same notes as C major. It's just about how the notes relate in the context of Phrygian, E Phrygian versus major, C major. So if we know a C major scale on the guitar, we also know an E Phrygian scale in effect, because they got the same notes. Okay, so if I was to play a C major scale here, 3 note per string, okay, just in this 8th position, that sounds like C major because I started on the C and it sets your ear up to hear C, but it could also be E Phrygian if it's played over an E Phrygian chord progression. It's all about the chord progressions. That's determining the mode that you're in. Not sure if I said that word correctly, but anyway. So it is going to determine the mode that you're using. So it begins with the chord progression. The chord progression is king, okay? It's telling you, hey, I'm E Phrygian or I'm C major. So whatever you play on top, it's going to sound, if you're in key, one of those two, or whatever context it might be. I could just play that C major scale on top of a C major chord progression or a C major chord, and it's going to sound like C major. But if I play it over an E Phrygian progression, it won't sound like C major, it will sound like E Phrygian. Okay, so here's an E Phrygian progression. We've got an E minor chord, we've got an F, and we've got a D minor chord. That's our progression, right? If I just play that scale, certainly not C major. Okay, so I'm playing, yeah, you could think of it as C major, but it's not. It's E Phrygian, but it's kind of giving you bang for buck there, right? You're getting 2 for 1. You've got C major if you want it in the context of C major, but you've also got E Phrygian. Why? Because both keys have the same notes. But the E is the root in E Phrygian. That's the F chord. Okay, so you can just, if you know C major scale or A major scale, you can get Phrygian, okay? And you can get all the other modes within that scale too, but we're just talking about Phrygian today. Okay, another great way to access the Phrygian mode is via the pentatonic scale, okay? By simply playing, we're talking about E Phrygian, okay? It's a minor mode. So if we grab the E minor pentatonic scale and add the appropriate notes, which will only have to add 2 notes to the scale, you've got E Phrygian. So we've got pattern 1 up here at the 12th fret. And if we look at the notes in that scale, we've got E, G, A, B, D. Then they repeat, E, G, A, B, D, E, G, etc. Okay, so you've got 5 of the notes from the pentatonic scale, 5 of the 7 notes already straight up in that scale. So if you were just to play that scale over the top of an E Phrygian progression, you're in E Phrygian, okay? So you could just use the pentatonic scale. We're going to talk a little bit about that approach shortly because there's a cool thing that I want to point out to you. But before we get there, we have the E minor pentatonic scale and we simply add the missing notes. In this case, it's the C and it's the F, okay? So if I'm working up my pattern, E, G, A, B, C, I can put in the C. In fact, I missed the F, didn't I? We've got the E, then the F. Then you've got the pentatonic scale, then there's the C at the 15th fret, 5th string, D, A, G, D, E, F, and then G, A, B, there's the C, D, E, F, G. So if you play it all together, it's E Phrygian, but we're thinking of it, this is the key, we're thinking and visualizing it, probably more the point, as the pentatonic scale we all know and our licks that we can play, and we can just add wherever we like the missing F and C notes from Phrygian. It's the way you're visualizing it that is the key difference here, and we'll have you play differently. I mean, if you play with pentatonic scales, you've got all your licks and things that you might do with your pentatonic, that will sound great. And then you can add the F or the C note wherever you like to get that Phrygian flavor. So if we play this progression, okay, so again, we've got the E minor, the F, and then we've got the D minor. And if we hear our pentatonic scale, just the scale straight up, okay, then we can add the C or the F. And do all you know. All your pentatonic stuff and whatever. Now the bonus sort of application here in this category, while we're on the pentatonics, is in any key, be it just straight up major or natural minor or any of the modes, the major modes or the modes of the major scale, there are 3 minor chords, okay? Now remember I said understanding the harmony of a scale is walking through the door of truly understanding that scale. So if we just look at E Phrygian from a harmonic or a harmony point of view for a moment, the chords, if you've got the same notes as C major, in E Phrygian, you will also have the same chords, but instead of starting on the C chord and C chord being 1 and the center of the key, the tonic, as it is in the key of C, E minor is the root chord for E Phrygian, okay? And in E Phrygian, you have an E minor chord, you have an F, you have a G, you have an A minor, you have a B half diminished, you have a C, you have a D minor, and of course you back at your E minor. They're the diatonic chords of E Phrygian. Now notice when you're looking at the diatonic chords of E Phrygian, you have an E minor chord, you also have an A minor chord, and you have a D minor chord. As I said, 3 minor chords in any key, major or minor or modal. If we've got E minor, D minor, A minor, this means you can use E minor, D minor or A minor pentatonic scales. So while we're talking about pentatonics and modes and accessing modes through pentatonics, you can use A minor, D minor or E minor to varying effects over an E Phrygian progression to get the E Phrygian sound. Each pentatonic scale will give you a different set of 5 notes from the Phrygian scale. So A minor, if we start there, gives you an A, a C, a D, E and G. They're notes in E Phrygian and then they repeat. D minor gives you a D, an F, a G, an A, a G, A, yes, C, and then back to D. and so on. Okay, there's overlap, of course, but it's a different, slightly different set of 5 notes of the 7. And then, as we were saying before, with E minor, E Phrygian, E minor, sorry, pentatonic scale, you have E, G, A, B, C, a D, and E. Okay, so different sets of 5 notes, giving you different nuances when you attack the or approach the Phrygian scale or the Phrygian sound that with the pentatonic scale. So just quickly, A minor, just straight up, A minor pentatonic scale. Okay, if I was to play D minor, this is D minor. Okay, and of course E minor. Okay, so I'm not adding any notes there, I'm just playing the straight pentatonic scale. I'm not doing that much with it either, to be honest. But the point is, it's a different way to access the sound. Each one of these will have the nuances between the different approaches and will provide you with different opportunities to access the Phrygian modes. Okay, and a third way, very cool way, I love this way of accessing modes, and it's through arpeggios. So arpeggios are different to playing scales, mainly in that there are bigger jumps, bigger distances, bigger intervals between the notes when you're playing an arpeggio versus a scale. So immediately you're going to get a different sound, even though you're accessing the same notes. And that's the point here. We are accessing virtually, effectively, the same notes every time. But with the scale, with the pentatonic scales, now with the arpeggios, there are different ways, different approaches are coming at it to get different sounds. If we look again at the chords in E Phrygian, we have, again, E minor, F, we have G, we have A minor, we have B, half diminished or B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor. Now, if we take 2 arpeggios, for example, if we take the F and the G arpeggio, let's just have a look at that. So the arpeggio is the notes in the chord, okay, being played separately. So if we have a look at the F, the notes we have in an F arpeggio are F, A, and C. The notes we have in the G major arpeggio are G, B, D. There's no overlap here. We have 6 different notes, and they all belong to the E Phrygian mode. By playing those 2 arpeggios, playing around with those 2 arpeggios, you get access to 6 of the 7 notes of Phrygian. But more the point, you get access to those 6 notes via arpeggios with the bigger jumps between the notes. I'm going to use little triad shapes. Triads are 3-note chords. That's essentially what we're doing here. It's going to give me a little fragment of an arpeggio if I sort of target triads. In a nutshell, it's 3 notes and you can play them on different string sets. I'm going to play F triad here on string set 4, 3, 2. And here's a G, which is always going to be a tone above. And you can just practice back and forth between the 2, you know, up one, down the other. Or up the one you went down and down the one you went up, or up and down one and then up and down the other. Or you can skip and sort of play them in different orders, you know, just all different combinations and permutations of the notes of those 2 triads. Then I could move up the same string set, 4, 3, 2, and play the next set. That's the first inversion F here, because the A, the third of the chord, is in the bass. And then, of course, the same shape 2 frets higher, it gives me G. And again, I could sort of, you know, go back and forth those 2 and just sort of get them down into my visual, if you like. Okay, and then I could go up again and get the second inversions, which has the 5th of the chord in the bass. Here's F, and here's G. Okay. And, you know, you hear those, see, bigger jumps and cool sounds with arpeggios, right? It's a different sound. What we're doing here is we're taking the triad, playing it as separate notes, over the top of this chord progression, but we're not playing arpeggios in the traditional sense of there's an E minor chord, better play an E minor arpeggio, and oh, here comes an F chord, better play an F arpeggio, there's that D minor, better play D minor arpeggio. Typically with arpeggios, you follow the chord changes and play through the harmony, what we call playing through the harmony of the progression. That's not the point here. Here we're just using the arpeggios. They're within the key. We know they're given us 6 of the 7 notes of Phrygian, E Phrygian in this case, so we can play them whenever we like and just use your ear to hear where you want it to land and resolve. Okay, so if we get the progression, so that again, we just hear it just to settle into the progression here. E minor, there's the F and D minor. So if I've got, F, just the one arpeggio shape, F and G. You can even just sort of take the top 2 notes of each triad shape perhaps, and ascend and descend. You can use little notes sort of in between and whatever. I'm just sort of mucking around here trying to talk as I play. But hopefully you get the idea. Mixed in with our other approaches, right? Hopefully you get the idea there, right? If you like this video, then you'll love this ebook audio from my Jazz Concepts for Acoustic Guitar series titled Arpeggios. In this ebook, you will learn exactly what arpeggios are, how to visualize them on the fretboard, and several ways to use them in your guitar playing. I will run you through 3 key major arpeggio shapes and 3 key minor arpeggio shapes, and how each of these relate to each other on the fretboard so you can easily access them in your playing. Not only will you learn the conventional way of applying arpeggios to your guitar playing, but I will also show you how to instantly multiply your soloing possibilities with each arpeggio shape through arpeggio superimposition. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. I will not only show you how all this stuff works on the fretboard, but also explain it to you so you can understand the theory behind it all. So click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook audio, Jazz Concepts for Acoustic Guitar Arpeggios. You'll have it in your inbox within minutes. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos. Also, let me know of what you think about the Phrygian Mode. Do you have certain ways you like to access it? Do you have favorite songs that use Phrygian Mode? Let me know. Leave your thoughts below in the comments. I love reading all your comments. I reply to all comments, so don't be shy, drop me a line. If you like this video, then hit that like button, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the all-important notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I've released a new video. This is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.